Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, we're back here on the Chase Thomas podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee. Everything School HQ. Joining me, co-worker, FANRUN Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, Under Review's own Sam Beard. Sam, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon, Chase. Doing pretty good. Good to be back on. Did something right the first time to get the invite for the second time. So yeah, definitely excited to chop it up as we are officially into the off season. So you can get the creative wheels turning in the brain on what the topics are and everything. It feels good.
It's a lot, though. We're now at the point where, it's preview series and things like that, but it's tough, man. The next month is going to be
the national title run for granted. Was that an easy coast into late June, and then you just only had one, basically July to kill? We might have taken that for granted last year.
Recruiting, we're going to have a blitz there. That'll be nice. Most of this class will be done. I know Vol fans are concerned with 9 commits right now. It's like, next month, this class is going to be very, very filled, and it's going to be filled in a hurry. And then fall camp, like you said, first week of August. And we'll get the Hall of Fame game in here in about a month, and we'll get there. NFL preseason is. I was talking to JP Acosta on the Chase over on Fox Sports Knoxville and Fan Radio today about this, but I'm like, it feels silly that we're doing this. You being a Titans guy too, it's like, if all the players have decided we're not playing in these 3 games, you've already shortened it to 3, and we talk every year. I know that every big talking head, the first 2 weeks of the season, it's like, look, the first couple weeks of the regular season, everyone is just sloppy football, and everyone is playing for the first time and getting acclimated with one another. The real season starts in week 4. That's when you really know what a team is. And I'm like, then why are we doing the preseason then? They're like, just get rid of the preseason. The preseason is like, make 18 games, and then the first 4 weeks is just a glorified preseason anyway, but the games count, so good luck. But what are we doing if we're all collectively admitting this?
We're getting the common fan out there to go, sweating 95-degree heat at their favorite football team stadium and watch their, 3rd and 4th stringers go to work battling for a roster spot or something like that.
Do you go to a lot of Titans games a year or no?
Honestly, I probably should go to more. The kid I just moved in with, though, he's on like a hot streak for like 12 years in a row, every single Titans home game. He's got like a crazy obsession with just not letting that streak die. So I wonder if maybe I find myself at a few more games this season upcoming. Obviously, I'm hoping Cam Moore changes that too. I haven't had much of a reason to make the trip from Knoxville to Nashville too often in the last couple seasons, but hopefully that changes its tune this year.
Absolutely. Well, Sam, we are going to talk all things Tennessee here on the podcast today on a scorching Wednesday afternoon here in Knoxville, Tennessee. It's just so bad. I don't even want to go outside. It's terrible. Like, it's bad, man. Like, I love the heat now at this point, but it's too much.
I made the mistake of going out on a walk yesterday, and probably about a mile and a half in, I just was dripping sweat, and I was like, what am I doing to myself? I'm just punishing myself every minute I'm out here.
Yeah, I can't do it. Cannot do it. But I think we're getting rain this weekend, and hopefully it cools off a little bit for next week. Let's hope. Call your shot out of the gate here. The more deep dives I'm doing into like DJ Newman and the Bowling Green connection here, different shade of orange coming in here from the Falcons up north for this 2026 Tennessee team here. I think it's interesting because I think a lot of fans are assuming outfield or lineup guy. It's like he was a Friday night starter for Bowling Green the last 2 years. It's a little bit different for him in terms of what kind of 2A aspirations he might have, where he is ultimately. He talked to Ryan of the Rocky Top Insider about, his role, and like he'd be okay with being a bullpen guy if that's what Tennessee needs him to be next year. But until Mac, who I think Tony Vitello was like snapped in a picture like at landed Mac's house, the Rutgers transfer yesterday or one day this week. So we'll see still on that front if that's a guy they add here over the next week or so. But to me, I think it's a real shot that DJ Newman is one of your weekend starters. It's somebody I think fans are not necessarily anticipating as of yet. But it's a big jump, but it was also a big jump for Chase Dollander to go from Georgia Southern up to being a Saturday guy for Tennessee as a weekend guy right out of the gate for the Vols and Frank Anderson. But yes or no, in your opinion, do you think DJ Newman are you going to jump on this early and say he's a weekend starter next year, or do you think he's going to end up in the bullpen?
I think it's safe to say maybe as the roster stands right now, I am going to take him. And I do think it's very interesting there. You're going after a couple more two-way guys than you would normally see. And I think with some roster limitations starting to kind of shorten those baseball rosters a little bit, I think it'll be an interesting recruiting tactic, not just from Tennessee, but teams around the country saying, hey, let's go and capitalize on two-way talent because you can kind of kill two birds with one stone, obviously. And I think a guy like Newman definitely fits that bill. And I think I will take him because you just look at the stuff and Frank Anderson, a guy that is just his MO is pounding the strike zone, throwing strikes. Don't necessarily worry about who's on base. If they're stealing bases, just hit the strike zone and let's get the guy out at plate right now. And DJ Newman's a guy who came in 24.1% strikeout rate and just a 5.8% walk rate over his sophomore and junior seasons. I look at those numbers and I feel like Frank Anderson is just looking at that and saying, I can make this guy even better. And you look at all of the arms that have frankly left this Tennessee roster, not just bullpen guys, but starters, your Liam Doyle, your Marcus Phillips, and AJ Russell, they're all gone. So to me, I do feel like there's a spot on that roster right now. To your point, if you get a guy like Landon Mack, maybe that changes the calculus a little bit. But to me, I feel like he's a guy that is definitely going to be in the running for that and has the stuff to absolutely get it done.
It's just weird because he didn't the starts were 2 years ago and 3 years ago. And then last year he was primary a lineup guy. And I think he appeared, 25 games, all in the lineup. He started all 25 games he appeared in, but he was in the lineup. He batted .419. So he was great at getting on base. He was a stolen base guy. He only pitched 14 innings after being it's just really, he has had a weird arc at Bowling Green. So he's super versatile, which is the name of the game in the 34-man roster in 26. But he's a huge wild card to me. You get him on campus and you see what works, but I just have no idea what to make of him.
Yeah. I mean, some injuries have been a factor for him, throughout that career and stuff like that. And so, maybe the model of consistency that you would want out of that weekend starter, maybe that's not necessarily the archetype that he's followed all the way to Tennessee, but kind of to your point, some of his production in some of those years where he had some more innings under his belt, it did feel like he had a little bit more of a workload there at Bowling Green. So, does that just translate with health and being able to stay available for yourself throughout an entire season? And then B, is that a guy that kind of has the stuff to be able to translate to SEC competition where we know it's the most dominant conference in the country?
Yeah, I'm going to lean towards right now. You just have so many question marks in this lineup right now of who's going to make it to campus, who's not. How many of these year two guys are going to get starts and just be given that opportunity? No Robbins from Seton Hall in the mix makes me think. I think Newman and Wright are both going to be in the field. I think they're both going to be in the lineup, and I think Newman's going to be a bullpen guy. That's my gut. I just think Tennessee is going to find another option, and maybe injuries change things in terms of where they'll need Newman in 26. But to me, my gut is he's somewhere in the outfield for Tennessee next year. And Wright, I don't know, maybe Wright's DH, maybe Wright's at first, maybe he's catching. Who knows on that front? Because I think he caught all they have a connection where I think every time he pitched, he was catching for.
I believe I saw that as well. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's really fascinating. It's not, you never see this it's not like Liam Doyle and Andrew Fisher last year. This kind of teammate combo is very, very different. It's kind of funny that we're doing this back to back of these teammates who encouraging one another to come on. It's kind of this package deal, but completely different. And I will also say, and this is no disrespect, but it's not the same. It's not Liam Doyle and Andrew Fisher is not the same as DJ Newman and Garrett Wright coming in, but they could be important glue guys for this 2026 team for sure.
I think what's interesting is it gives the coaching staff maybe a little bit more creative freedom, but it gives us as fans and guys that are trying to, get a guy into one certain slot in the lineup. It's hey, you might not be able to just pencil him into one spot in the outfield. Maybe this is a guy that throughout the first month and a half of the season, even our coaching staff is going to kind of toy around with him and say, hey, let's give him a couple starts. Let's see how he does with the starting role. Let's go to him in the bullpen and see if that's a guy that can kind of be one of those long relief, high leverage relievers that you've seen that Tennessee's had over the last few years. Or is it a guy that just goes out and plays in the field and you use him for his bat and stuff like that? I think it's tough for us as fans to try to, really nail that role down when he can really play 3 or 4, and I'm sure that's a bit of a headache for that coaching staff, but it's probably also one that they feel pretty good about, just knowing, hey, if he can't do it in this type of role, he's got 2 to 3 others that he feels pretty comfortable in that we know can help us out in some way. It's just kind of up to them to be able to kind of find that niche spot.
On the football side of things here, I've been thinking about this week because last year, Sam, Shump, some other people who shall not be named, gave me a lot of trouble, a lot of flack this time last year when I said Arkansas was the game for Tennessee football, where I was like, I just don't have a good feeling about this game. No one's going to talk about it. I don't think Tennessee's winning this game. Like, I don't feel good. And the timestamps were there. The history is there last year that I was in. I didn't want to be right about that one. I didn't want to be right about Tennessee and Fayetteville. Didn't like where it landed on the schedule. Didn't like anything about it. Taylor Green was the type of quarterback that was going to give Tennessee problems. It was a bad recipe. Didn't love it. Not a great history against the Hogs in football. I didn't love a lot of different things about it. That being said, this year, the schedule doesn't have like a natural Arkansas to me. However, Mississippi State, if there was going to be one, and the big caveat here is there is not nearly as much talent at Mississippi State in year 2 under Levy as there was under Sam Pittman in year 5, year 4 at that point. Yeah. With the Hogs, a little bit different. That being said, Blake Shapen is a good college football quarterback. I think they have a 2-headed monster at tailback that I think is going to be one of the better running back rooms in the SEC next year. I think the defense is going to stink again, and I'm not optimistic about what the Hogs or what the Dogs have cooking on that side of the ball. But I do think Blake Shapen, who had 8 TDs, 1 pick, he was a Big 12 champion quarterback and kept Oklahoma State out of the CFP 3 years ago in a game. I don't know if you remember, where at the goal line, like Baylor stopped Oklahoma State at the 1 to keep him out of the CFP, and Cincinnati gets that spot. Big what if there. That being said, Blake Shapen has proven to be a good above average quarterback. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy the last couple of years. The thing is, he got knocked out after the 4th game of the year last year. They're playing Mississippi State early. Like, this is not a late in the calendar type deal. So if they get Mississippi State early, there's a strong chance that Blake Shapen will still be on the field at that point. And I think they're going to have the quarterback advantage depending on who's QB1 for Tennessee in that game. And you know how I feel about Jake Merklinger and company. Big Merklinger. I just don't think we're going to get Merklinger at that point. My prediction is still the bye week after Mississippi State going into Arkansas is when we get Merk's first start.
Okay.
That being said, I think it's going to be Aguilar. And I think it's going to be a cowbell situation where it's going to be loud. It's going to be a big time deal, like a lot of history with Levy and Heupel, obviously. That's the one I've now circled of like, fans, I know you're going to want that to be a nice, easy game where you don't have to take the antacids. I don't know if that's going to be the case here. Am I crazy, Sam Beard?
I don't think you're crazy, but I will give you something to kind of talk you off the ledge a little bit. And I think this goes not only for the Mississippi State game, I think it can carry you throughout the entire season. Something about Tennessee's schedule that I think is getting swept under the rug a little bit is the fact that we talked about last year, there was kind of that 3 to 4 game gap where it felt like a lot of them were kind of those trap scenarios, and you had that kind of month of hell a little bit. I feel like this schedule is spaced out pretty well between your quote unquote trap games and then your rivalry games. And so I think for Mississippi State, you know, you get Georgia in week 3, but then you get UAB the week before Mississippi State. I got to imagine that that's kind of, you know, you're not just glossing over UAB, but I would imagine there's guys on that staff that are saying, hey, we don't have to prepare for UAB this week. Let's make sure that we go into Mississippi State on the road at night, to your point, where it can get a little bit of a ruckus environment. You can get the weird night SEC magic. I feel like you're going to come in there with a really strong game plan. And then I think you can kind of take that to some other games too. You've got Arkansas at home as a revenge game before your Alabama game. That feels like a little bit of an easier road home there. Oklahoma, we've talked about how that's kind of a swing game in the schedule. You get Kentucky and Lexington, and we all know that Kentucky's not going to be a great football team this year. Florida down in Gainesville, that's a tough game, obviously, every single time we play Florida. Well, you get New Mexico State before then. So to me, I just look at kind of the weeks before, and I know Mississippi State is going to be coming off of Northern Illinois the week before Tennessee. So they should be able to have a pretty nice game plan in terms of preparation in that sense. But I kind of look at it more as I think Tennessee is going to be able to have kind of ultimate preparation coming into these. And I don't necessarily think your opponents are going to be in too much more of an advantageous spot than you are. I agree with you on the Blake Shapen aspect of things. I do think he was an underrated quarterback before he got hurt. And they did have, they really have a strong rushing attack this year. I think you put it nicely saying that Mississippi State defense stinks, though. And I think this is a game where you can potentially just go in there and hope that you can execute your game plan enough, run the football enough, not have to put too much pressure on your new quarterback to go make game-winning plays. I think you can go out there and win that game. I absolutely do think it is. It has the potential to be kind of that one slip up. Hey, what the hell did you do in this game, Josh Heupel?
Yeah, I remember talking to a Mississippi sports radio host at the time, and he was like, yeah, I don't like, because Coleman Hutzler is their DC, and he was like an outside linebackers coach at Alabama the year prior, never called any defense, I don't believe, but it was like one of those that raised eyebrows, like, I don't know about this one. And that defense was horrific last year, and he's back for another year. I don't know. It's just those offensive coaches, like, this is one of the things I tell Tennessee fans, like, one of the most underrated aspects of the Heupel era thus far is Heupel did not make the mistake that a lot of offensive minded guys make, which is they hire DC wrong, but they also stay out of the way and they don't want to deal with the defensive side of the ball. So they stick with those guys for too long, and it ends up costing them their job because they just did not hire Lincoln Riley, bringing Alex Grinch with him to USC for a couple of years. That set that program back. Like, everyone knew at the end of Oklahoma, it's like, Grinch is not a good DC. Like, those Oklahoma defenses were holding Oklahoma back from those legendary years with Kyler Murray and company. Early on with USC, like, they couldn't take full advantage of Caleb Williams because you had Alex Grinch calling. Now you go and hire D'Anton Lynn, the DC who was really good for UCLA, your crosstown rival. Things are starting to trend in a positive direction. The defense is making strides. Heupel, like, he brought in Rodney Garner from the beginning. He was like, you're coaching defensive line. Tim Banks, like, defense guy from Penn State. Penn State has always gotten one of the top 10, 15 defenses. William Inge, co-DC of a national champion runner-up. Like, there's William Martinez, all kinds of experience all across the SEC and everywhere else. It's a loaded defensive side of the ball, but he hired well on that side and has stuck with them. And they have one of the best defensive staffs in the SEC. That being said, Mississippi State, Jeff Lebby, I just don't think it's one of those where you're looking at it, you're like, oh no. Like, remember Todd Grantham? Like, Dan Mullen was really loyal to Todd Grantham, and you're like, man, you're the best play caller maybe in the country. Like, Todd Grantham is just not a good defensive coordinator. You got to move on, man. Like, you got to, like, you're really good. Just you don't even have to hire an elite defensive coordinator. Just get someone in the top 20s, man, 30s. But, like, you can't do this every year. You're sabotaging yourself. Miami just did this last year. Shannon Dawson, one of the best offensive coordinators in the sport. Miami #1 in scoring. Defense, terrible defensive coordinator hire from Mario Cristobal. And now he goes out, gets Minnesota's DC. Minnesota, they know defense. Offense, not so much. Defense, hey, smart hire. But it's just some offensive geniuses just don't hire DC right. And then they stay hands off, or they're loyal to a fault. And you're like, man, that whole thing could have gone differently. And Heupel, to his credit, did not go the Jeff Lebby route where he hired well from the beginning and has just jam-packed that staff.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point. And I think it's one that maybe for certain Tennessee fans gets them potentially frustrated with some of the decisions that Josh Heupel's made with maybe some coaches offensively, where they've wanted kind of some new faces in there. And you've gotten a lot of guys with NFL experience, or to your point, just experience all around the country, all around that defensive side of the ball. And it's clearly worked out for you. And then, it feels like maybe at times where you could have cut bait with somebody on the offensive staff, and Heupel keeps him around because he's been with them since UCF, or he's a friend of his or something like that. I do think it's been interesting that it's kind of been one-sided on that side of the ball, but I think it's a good point that it's an underrated aspect of kind of the Heupel tenure, is that he knows he's an offensive guy. He knows his strengths, and he's going to say, hey, I'm going to go out there and field the best possible staff defensively to where these guys can recruit on their own, they can coach on their own, they can develop on their own. And I can really just kind of go out there and not really have to worry about what's getting done on the defensive side of the ball, because I have just ultimate trust in all of these guys that we've put in there. I think there's a reason why Tennessee is really kind of taken that next step in terms of consistency over the last few years with him. And I think a lot of that is due in part to just that defense really being able to find themselves and find their identity kind of within the Tennessee offense and how they like to run things.
I love it. Speaking of Tennessee football here, Sam, your favorite of the 9 in the boat right now, 2026 recruits. Who's your favorite? Who are you most amped about being in this class starting in December?
I'm going to go the offensive side of the ball, and it's a guy that has been making waves this week at the Rivals camp. I'm going to go Tyreek King, local kid. I just think when you've seen when you have an elite slot guy in this Tennessee offense, man, I think it just takes it to a new level. And I think a guy like him, the speed he possesses, the overall athleticism, he's a guy to me that just with some of the pieces that you've already got recruiting wise around, if a Mike Matthews, Braylon Staley, those type of guys, if you can flip a guy like a Tristan Keys for them both to kind of come in together, to me, Tristan Keys is a guy that just the value that he brings, the speed that he brings out of the slot, to me, that really takes this Tennessee offense up a notch. And it seems like it's not just Tennessee fans excited about him. You're seeing national pundits and people saying, hey, this is a guy that might be a borderline 5-star. We might need to kind of reevaluate where this guy's at. So to me, Tyreek King's my guy in the 26 class.
Tyreek King is interesting. And it's also, when you think about slot, one of the things this year that's, guess what, going to be different again is all 4 slot receivers for Tennessee thus far under Heupel are completely different. Like there's not one that mirrors the other. The only one to this point that I think will remind fans of the previous guy is Joakim Dotson with Jalen Hyatt. Like, I don't think he's going to be the burner quite as fast, but he's fast. Like, Joakim Dotson's got some wheels coming out of Baylor, formerly Memphis, moves over to Baylor for his final year. But he's a speedster. Like, he's that straight line speed, like kind of what you're seeing with Hyatt, where it's just, hey, we're going to see if we can burn you deep. We're going to hide you behind another receiver like a Tillman type, and like we're going to confuse defenses and see if we can beat you over the top. Like, that's kind of Joakim Dotson, and we'll see if he's able to develop in a hurry, because they're going to need him. Like, he's one of your true freshman 4-stars that are going to have to get acclimated in a hurry. But you think about Velus Jones, like pre-snap guy, bowling ball, goes to the NFL as a running back with the Bears. So very different type of dude coming out of USC and transferring in. And then you have Jalen Hyatt, obviously, burner. Then you have Squirrel White, super undersized, couldn't stay healthy, but he was also, I think he was solid in 2023, but he's not going to wow you with this size, speed, but he was solid. Like, Squirrel was a solid player, but he didn't excel at any one thing. He wasn't like a superstar at one type of deal. And then you look this year, Braylon Staley, completely like an over the middle guy. Like, he's been compared to like Cedric Wilson, I've seen, and it's like he's going to be a different type of receiver too. So you're like, man, you think you have an idea of what like Heupel wants in the slot position, and it's just every year, it's just something different. Tyreek King will be a drastic contrast to what you have with Braylon. Like, he's a different kind of player, but he's kind of more in that Jalen Hyatt mode, I think, where he's a burner, and I think he's just going to be a yak guy, and like you said, local Catholic kid, and I think the sky's the limit for him. He's a big early kid who's been in this class for a long time, but it's also kind of crazy when you look at that. I mean, they're still fighting for Tristan Keys as a flip there, and we'll see what happens. But Tyron Evans, late decommit from North Carolina, he's now in Miami. So we'll see on Legend Bay, who is a quarterback in Texas. And I mean, I don't know. You have the kid from, I mean, he's down to Utah and Washington, but I don't know if he's a Utah kid originally, but Salisi Momoa or something like that. His last name, I don't have it in front of me, but he's a 4-star receiver, and he's a West Coast kid. So we'll see. That was his first time OBing, I believe, at UT. But this class is really bizarre in terms of receiver, and Tyreek King, though, is for all of our East Tennesseans locally. If you don't have anything to do on Friday night, you might want to go check out Tyreek King in person, because it's I think he flashed in a big way at Rivals camp this week too, and yeah, I think he's someone to get very, very excited about. All the local, I guess, East Tennessee products in the Heupel era on offense, like he's gonna be fun. He's got a lot of upside for UT, so I like that call.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like I do think it's an interesting point that you've kind of said. It's different type of guys and archetypes fitting in that slot role, and you got to think for a kid. I feel like he's a Squirrel White almost just on steroids, and you hope that he's a guy that can kind of stay a little bit healthier, obviously, and maybe some of that due in part to some quarterback play at the time. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, I just feel like with some of the bodies that you've got outside of him, I think he could be a really great marriage, just kind of between some of those other guys that you've got in that room that play some different roles. You've got kind of some guys with a little bit bigger frame, a little bit more physical. But yeah, I think he could kind of take on that role of just that burner through the slot, that it's just, hey, you're going to get lined up, and we're going to put you into some advantageous spots, and we're going to say, hey, you can run into a straight line basically, and we're going to have one of our quarterbacks here able to knock down the deep ball. And I think it goes both ways too, in saying, hey, we got to get a quarterback back to be able to complete those deep balls, but you got to feel pretty good about the guys that you already have kind of stashed away. And then obviously the guy coming in the class with him in Faison Brandon.
Absolutely. And it's like folks who are worried about, it's like, I mean, Tyreek King is a top 10 247 composite receiver in this class. Like, he's a top 10 dude. Who knows? Maybe he pushes himself into a 5-star with a crazy senior year. But I think he's someone that, yeah, I'm very, very excited to see what happens with him, and as an early enrollee down the street and everything else, be a cool story. Favorite 2026 recruit that you think is the most important for Tennessee to close with this summer, that they're in the running with, that they've had in these OVs the last couple of weeks, that, some of them crystal balls, whether that's for TJ White, and we'll see on Braden Roos from Kel. Like, who is it for you that you're like, man, Tennessee's got to get this guy in the class?
I'm going to go Darius Gray on the offensive line. And if you're, talking about how you're on the Merklinger train, Chase, I'm sorry.
Jake Chase, we're all the same. We're just elite in East Tennessee figures.
I am a guy that has been kind of critical of Glenn Ellerbe at times. And to me, it's a big kind of prove it next couple years for him, because I think him coming in got the benefit of a lot of really good guys on paper that were some prove it recruits that were holdovers that were coming through. And you got a chance to kind of get a 5th year and a COVID year with some of those guys. And then you plug in place with a few pieces in the transfer portal. You haven't necessarily seen the homegrown talent kind of develop in that sense. And so, and you've missed out, frankly, on a couple of those big 5 stars. You've gotten it in David Sanders, but in years past, the Francis Maguas and the Jordan Seatons of the worlds. If you can go in there and you can land these elite 5-star offensive line talents, to then couple that with the quarterbacks that you're bringing in pretty much yearly now on an elite basis. If you can get a guy like a Tristan Keys to flip, you feel like you've kind of gotten that elite wide receiver chip. You gotten it with Mike Matthews a few years back. I look a lot at that offensive line in terms of just how this Tennessee offense rolls. It's a run game. It's an offense that is predicated on the run game as well. That's been something that you've been pretty good at, but I just feel like homegrown talent and development wise, I feel like there's a little bit left to be desired with Glenn Ellerbe's group. And so getting a guy like Darius Gray, who just kind of feels like a no-brainer, almost a day one type of starter, to me, that kind of helps expedite that process. So I'm going to stick in the trenches and I'm going to go with him.
Gray is kind of like Hyder to me, where because you see him as an interior guy, like I have a hard time going high NIL for a guard. If he was someone you think you could still split out the tackle, I would go a high number there. But man, like, you've been able to work outside of center, because I think Cooper, obviously, as a 4-star guy, you have Satterwhite and Anderson. And when you bring in a guard, like, center is extremely important. So if he's ultimately can be a center, then I'm more intrigued. Guard, I just feel like, man, you can plug and play so many different guys. Like, Ollie was great at guard, Spraggs. Like, you go up and down the list and they're fine. In terms of Carbon was solid as well. Like, I'm not really as worried. And the Glenn Ellerbe part of it, I guess a Glenn Ellerbe defender in terms of the coach. Like, I can understand like the evaluations, because it's a big year for his evals. Like, I'm not even giving him credit for the Sanders eval. Like, we're not doing that. Like, Sanders is the number 1 overall
Can't
tackle.
miss.
Like, it's just, that's not a thing. It's not like, hey, do you hear about this guy? Like, Ellerbe was not early on. Like, David Sanders, you hear about him? You see this guy, number 1 overall? I think he might have something here. We should look at him. I don't think that's the case. I will say, though, he deserves a bunch of credit for the 2022 season, having the tempo and having the luck that they had, where Will Anderson and Dallas Turner were on opposite edges in that Alabama-Tennessee game. And he made it work with a mixture of J.J. Crawford and Gerald Mincey. And you never once noticed Gerald Mincey and J.J. Crawford, other than Crawford puking on that awesome play at left tackle. But that's what he was rolling with at left tackle. And Bama they never got at Hendon Hooker. Like, that was never something outside of the botched fumble that they pick up in the end zone and everything else. But that was still not like a edge or a tackle issue for Tennessee. So I don't know. He like develops what he has outside of last year too at right tackle, where again, I don't even know if that's Ellerbe's fault, because it was just injuries to John Campbell and he had a bad year. You get Lance Hurd, and it took a while for him to get acclimated. I'm not really going to put that on him either. And I don't know. Cooper developed really well. He turned Donnell Wright into a top 10 pick. Ollie Lane turned into becoming a great guard for Tennessee. He was great there. Spraggs was great for many years under Ellery. The problem is he just hasn't developed anybody he's scouted. Like, it's just one of those where the guys he's brought in. And this year, better be Satterwhite or Shamu Marov or Max Anderson along with David Sanders, because you can't hide anymore. Like, to your point, all the Pruitt guys are gone. Like, this is now your team and your transfers and your freshmen and your guys and your evals. So it's a big eval year for him, but I will contend he's a big part of the reason that Tennessee's been able to run the ball 5 yards carry all the last 4 years. And also that Tennessee doesn't have a sack problem year over year. Like, outside of last year with the right tackle, Tennessee's been okay.
Yeah, and maybe I sound a little too critical there. Maybe I should rephrase it and say he's done a good job of refining players. Is he going to be able to go develop guys, I guess, is maybe what, and I think we're probably finding some common ground there, because, all those guys that you mentioned, you're right. It's not guys that he's just brought in through the high school ranks and it said, hey, you've been in my system for a year now. We need you to plug in place here. You go do it. It's kind of been either a holdover guy or a transfer that maybe you have been able to say, hey, you've got a lot of raw tools here. I'm going to be able to refine you and be able to get you into a better fit for this system. I think it's now just this year taking that next step. Not only is it refinement, but it's just overall development, because you haven't necessarily seen those guys hit the field just yet.
I agree. Let's do this final one here. One breakout. You only get one, Sam. Do you take Boo Carter breakout in year 2 or an Arion Carter breakout in year 3? You only get one. Who is more important for Tennessee this year?
Can I ask a question before this?
Yes.
Do we get a 100% Jermod McCoy coming back?
Ooh, no, because I think that's a TBD. We can't do that.
All right, I'm going to take Boo Carter then. I'm going to take Boo Carter. Mainly, in fact, part because of that question I asked you, are we going to get a Jermod McCoy back healthy? And B, I think you've seen a little bit more from Arion Carter, and he's had to have a little bit more put on his plate, I think, so far in his career than maybe a Boo Carter. And that's nothing against what Boo can do on the field. I think that maybe just speaks to the maturity and the overall readiness and development of Arion Carter kind of coming in here. But I will stick with Boo just because I think that secondary, it's not necessarily the biggest worry of mine. I think it's just the spotlight is kind of on them. And I think a lot of that due in part to the McCoy injury, some bodies kind of moving out in those safety roles, some injuries with guys like a Jordan Thomas last year, who you felt really, really high on, and then you never really got to see him hit the field for that long. But I'm going to roll with Boo because I think he's a guy that just the versatility that he brings. I think if a guy's to go down, or if you're just really needing him to kind of take on another role in that defense, I think he's a guy that can take a little bit more on his plate. And you've seen what he said in the offseason, saying, hey, I want to become a two-way guy. I want to be able to impact this team a little bit more. I do think he's a guy that is ready to kind of take that jump and wants to be that next step. And I think he can kind of be that Swiss Army knife for you a little bit in the secondary, where I kind of just already know what I'm getting out of Arion Carter, or at least I know the floor that I'm getting out of Arion Carter. I think he's still yet to hit his ceiling. But if we're going with the caveat of maybe not having a 100% Jermod McCoy coming back off of that ACL, I'm going to go with Boo Carter here. Yeah,
I mean, I hope Jermod's just 100% ready to go. I would still be careful with him. I would just be like, hey, Georgia is the target date. Like, we're not going to need you to beat Syracuse and ETSU. Like, let's just go as slow as humanly possible there and really protect Jermod, because you need him for the long haul. And I think what you also saw last year is you have a little bit more depth there than you thought you did, with Jalen McMurray being a top 100 PFF corner. If you have to go go Ricky Gibson the third with Jalen, with Colton Hood, who is a sneaky important late addition from Colorado, I think you can live in that world for a little bit and Tennessee be okay. The thing I think about with Arion is he was a super big win at the time. It feels like forever ago when Tennessee had to hold out with the Nick Saban-led Alabama group who was trying to get Arion Carter at the last minute out of Smyrna. And one of the things that is interesting about his spot now is he's had Keenan Peely. Even though Keenan was not able to stay healthy, unfortunately, in the last 2 years, Keenan was the leader of that room and one of the leaders of that defense, one of the guys that Heupel would take to media day. Like, it's just Keenan was the guy. now you're seeing, like, he spoke with Jake and George at that panel after the orange and white game this spring. Like, it's clear Arion is having a bigger role, and it is being asked to be a bigger voice on that defense. There's no way around it because there's so much young talent behind him now. He's the vet in that room. Like, it's him, then it's Jeremiah Thielander, but like Caleb Perry's gone, Jalen Smith is gone, Elijah Herring's gone, obviously Keenan Peely's gone, Aaron Beasley's gone. Like, this is your show now. Like, Arion Carter is in that spot where, hey man, you've got a bunch of blue chippers now behind you. You got 4-star Jaden Harmon out of Rome in here now. You got Christian Gass, 4-star out of Eastside. You got 3-star Jaden Perlotti. You have a lot of young talent in that room. You have Edwin Spillman, who I'm super high on, and I think he's someone who's going to push for a lot of stuff. So you have 4-star Jordan Burns, who was in this last class from Pace. Like, there's so much talent that they're going to look up to somebody like Arion. And I think there is so much blue chip talent in that room now that it's a big year for him. And like, he's got to become that kind of next man up, because guess what? You got talent behind you, guy. Like, it's not like one of those where it's a barren room where we're like, we have to throw Arion Carter into the mix because Tennessee doesn't have a lot of options. Tennessee's got options now. Tennessee's got guys just as talented as Arion Carter. They're younger, but they're just as talented, and they're going to be like just banging on the door too. So I think he has a lot of pressure under him to break out and be that leader of the defense, be the guy with the headset and communicating and knowing where everybody needs to be, being that kind of best player, be that QB of the defense. Like, there's a lot on Arion Carter's shoulders. I think he has the talent to do it, but there's a lot on him. With Boo, he's just the most talented player on Tennessee. And I think his biggest thing is, and I don't know if you agree with this, Sam, but I think it's special teams is going to be the first thing that pops for people. Is Boo on punt returns this year? Like, he should have housed that one against Georgia where Jalen McMurray misses the block on Thorson to spring him. And it's just like, if he has that, he's gone. And Boo is just, he's twitchy. Like, he and Mike Matthews are your twitchiest players who just have a miss quality that a lot of guys just don't have in this league. Part of the reason the Squirrel struggles, he has none of that in the slot. Like, those side to side things with Squirrel, he'd fall over, or he was never making anyone miss. And Brew, God bless him, trying to block for him and trying to help out here. And it's not happening. It was such a wasted play. Like, I hated that play so much, and I'm so glad it's gone. But I think potentially with Boo, if he's playing 15 to 20 snaps on offense, Boo over there, and you have Mike Matthews blocking for him or something, and you are able to put them on the same side and really scare opposing defenses. They're like, oh, are they going to Mike? Are they going to Boo? Like, there's actual receivers now who can scare you. And Boo has that kind of just that. You have to be careful with how many snaps he's getting ultimately. But man, he just has a quality where I think he's going to be off the edge. And you're like, you have to account for Boo on third down. It's like, oh, he's going up the line of scrimmage. Is Boo blitzing? Is he dropping back into coverage? Like, that star spot is so critical for Tennessee's success. But man, I think he's going to be flying all over the place. Like, I just have no questions about Boo. Boo's going to be a star. Arion has all the talent, but he hasn't put it together yet. Like, we have not seen a complete, like, one of the SEC's best linebackers seasons yet for him. And he has to have it this year. Like, you're the leader now, man. Like, everyone's going to be looking at Arion Carter. No one's looking at Boo like that. They're just like, Boo, just go make plays. Just go do Boo Carter things, and we're happy. Arion has to be a leader.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said for, A, we need just more production out of this guy. And then B, to your point, you've got to go be that leader. And yeah, maybe he's been able to kind of not hide under Keenan Peely, but that's just been the guy that is, he's damn near a 30-year-old in college football, and was just able to provide so much veteran leadership and presence, and just saying, hey, I can almost just kind of hold your hand along the way, and throughout practice and everything, I can be that guy that's mentoring you. So now Arion Carter's got to shoulder that load of being that veteran presence, to your point, in that room, while also just trying to be an elite linebacker himself. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that Arion Carter maybe has a little bit more pressure on his shoulders. And I think he's a guy that is going to go out there and, by all accounts, like, this coaching staff loves what they get out of this guy. And William Inge talks very highly of Arion Carter, and thinks he has the ability to go take that next step. But yeah, is he a guy that can shoulder the load of just being that productive SEC linebacker, while also kind of taking some of those younger guys under his wing and saying, like, hey, you're the next guy up here. We've seen injuries in this linebacker room basically year by year at this point. And so I've got to kind of get you ready for at any point to step into action here, as well as I've got to go out there and I've got to be that number one guy, because you're right. He needs to kind of be that green dot on that defense and be the guy that is kind of that defensive coordinator on the field. It is a big role, but to me, I feel pretty confident in Arion Carter kind of taking that step up. I'm a mid-state guy myself. I've got some friends that, really, really liked Arion Carter coming out of high school and was just kind of made up with the right stuff and said, some guys that are not Tennessee fans that said, hey, I am jealous that Tennessee's got this guy on their roster. And I think he's got the ability to not only be a guy that flashes on Saturdays, but they think he's got the ability to go out there and be a productive player on Sundays. So it's a big year for him. I completely agree with you. It's a big step for him in terms of just A, production on the field, and B, being that leader in that room as well when they really kind of need that veteran presence.
Yeah, I mean, he was 44.3 PFF grade in 2023. Really bad. 24, 61, which was only 390th out of 700 qualifying FBS linebackers. However, he was a top 100 pass rusher at the spot. So he's elite there as a linebacker. But man, he's got to be better as a whole. Like his run defense, 707th out of 800 linebackers. Like he's got to be a better tackler. He's got to be better on early downs. And he's got to be a leader. Like Arion Carter has all the talent, but the production has not matched up yet. That doesn't mean it's not going to get there, but this is the year. If you're going to break out, man, like this is the year. You got to do it.
And you saw how instinctual Keenan Peely played. And you got to wonder, like, does that rub off on a guy like Arion Carter, to your point, who's got all the physical, raw talent that you want in that position? But is he going to be a guy that kind of bridges that gap between the elite talent and kind of just being able to be that leader on the field and kind of playing two steps ahead, having the game a little bit more in slow motion and just knowing, hey, I'm knowing what this defense is throwing at me. I've got the counters to their counters. It's really just up to me to be able to kind of dive into that playbook and really come and be that difference maker. You saw what this Tennessee defense was with Keenan Peely when he was healthy last year, and kind of the somewhat drop off when he was out of the lineup. I think it's probably got to be on the forefront of Arion Carter's mind in the offseason. Let me try and be that Keenan Peely, not only for, the 4 to 5 games that you got him, but for the entire season next year. I think it's a fair point. He's got to definitely shoulder that load when Boo's kind of a guy that can go out there and just talented enough to kind of get by on that raw talent and not necessarily having to take that huge leadership step just yet.
I love it. Sam Beer, what can the good folks check out from you and the team over at Under Review with Bob Baskerville this week?
Yeah, got great stuff coming out. Probably just going to be doing some NBA draft recap tomorrow. Hopefully we'll see Chaz Lanier get picked tomorrow as well. So a lot of breakdowns on that. But yeah, some good stuff coming out on Under Review. Make sure to check us out 10 to 1 on FANRUN Radio. Other than that, you can catch me on Twitter, _Beard11. That's where you can get me.
There you go. Sam, keep up the great work, my friend, and we'll check back in again very soon.
Appreciate you.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.